So last topic that yesterday we discussed was the Mauryas, and today, without wasting time, I'll just start with the post-Maurya period. Then, thank you, Bhagavi. So without wasting time, just start with the post-Maurya period. Let me give you a little bit of background that when we talk about the post-Maurya period, so basically that post-Maurya period, why we don't name it after one dynasty and why we are naming so many, that calling it after the Mauryas. Basically, it was the Asoka who was controlling the entire Indian subcontinent then. But after his death, the Magad Empire itself started to disintegrate, and moreover there were many foreign invasions, many indigenous dynasties emerged, so that's why it cannot be named after one dynasty. This age cannot be named after one dynasty. And so there were two type of the rulers at this point of time, one who were outsiders and one who were indigenous dynasty, that who were the indigenous people. So this way we are going to proceed in this section. I have mentioned this earlier in the chronology also, that when it comes to the outsiders, so outsiders will include Indo-Greeks, then Sakas, Parthians and Kushanas. And when it comes to indigenous ruler, means that the one who were Indian origin ruler, so the one who replaced Mauryas was Sunga. Sungas were further replaced by Kanva, and Kanvas were replaced finally by Satvahan. So these three indigenous dynasty will be reading, and these four outsiders will be starting with. Then moreover, one more such thing that we need to know. So this rough diagram which I am creating, it's a kind of a symbolic diagram, that it's not an exact diagram that where they were located, but a symbolic diagram. So let me complete this part. So this much part. Now I will locate these all dynasties in the map of India. So for example, Sunga's reign is extending over here. This is Sunga area. Just 1 minute. Now you see that earlier Magad was controlling entire area. Now it's concentrated at a smaller place. And Sungas later on, they will be replaced by the Kanva. So I will be writing Kanva inside this map itself. And then, so with this you will understand that which all areas later on when Satvahan will control this area. So this entire area will come under Satvahan. Satvahan. So entire area will come under Satvahan. So Sunga, this red color, Kandva also red color, and this entire black will come under Satvahan. Then what about these indigenous dynasty, Indo-Greek, Saka, Parthian and Kushanas? So if we will have to locate them, they came at different point of time and in different areas. So when it comes to Indo-Greeks, so Indo-Greeks, their control was here. This is Indo-Greek area. IG I am writing, they came here. Then what about the Sakas? So there were two branches of the Sakas. One branch I am mentioning over here, Shaka, and then one very important branch of the Shaka was from here, entire Gujarat part. Even it was touching the Nasik area. So here also we are going to read about this branch of the Saka. Then Parthians. So Parthians also came and they were closer to this area. This is Parthian area, and Kushanas. So Kushanas control the erstwhile areas of the Sakas and then Indo-Greeks and then these all Saka Parthian. So Kushana's territory was little bigger and which will involve that near about these all this much area. So this is Kushana. See, this is a rough diagram just to give you a little bit of understanding that over the period in which particular area the control of these all rulers were there. Then, so control of these all rulers were there. So this is the representative diagram, and now I'll start with the post-Maurya outsiders, particularly Indo-Greeks. So I'm starting with the Indo-Greek rulers. So the very first one, you also write Indo-Greeks. Now, they were the first outsider in this period to come to India, and basically they were attacking the indigenous dynasties of India. So Indo-Greeks started arriving in Indian subcontinent by 165 BC. Then, so by 165 BC, and there are some unique things associated with them, and also we will talk about the most important ruler. So first of all, Indo-Greeks, they started arriving in India by 165 BC, and they, after arriving in India, they were the first people who issued gold coins. So they were the first people who issued gold coins, and moreover, the most important ruler of this Indo-Greek was the Menander. Now listen a little bit about Menander. Menander established his capital at Sakala, which is modern day Sialkot, then in Pakistan. So Sialkot, so modern Pakistan. Then when it comes to Menander, so at this point of time when Menander was the ruler, so there was a Buddhist monk, there was one Buddhist monk. The name of the monk was Nagasen. And Nagasen persuaded Menander to accept Buddhism. Then, so Nagasen persuaded Menander to accept Buddhism. As such, Menander asked many questions to the Nagasen. Then, so when he asked many questions to the Nagasen, so then very satisfactorily Nagasen gave reply to the Menander. So after getting the satisfactory replies from the Nagasen, Menander accepted Buddhism, and he also assumed one Indian title like Milind. Then so he also came to be known as the Milind after accepting Buddhism. Moreover, this historical conversation between Nagasen and Milind, Nagasen and Menander, it is composed in a book, and name of the book is the Milinda Panno. So please start writing about the Indo-Greeks, right? They started arriving in Indian subcontinent. They started arriving in Indian subcontinent by 165 BC. By 165 BC. By 165 BC. Full stop. Then further you mention Indo-Greeks were the first people who issued gold coins. Indo-Greeks were the first people who issued gold coins. Then further you mention their most important ruler was Menander. Their most important ruler was Menander, who established his capital at Sakala, who established his capital at Sakala, and in brackets you can write Sialkot in Pakistan. Modern day Sialkot in Pakistan. Sakala. Then further you mention, he was persuaded by a Buddhist monk. He was persuaded by a Buddhist monk, Nagsen. A Buddhist monk, Nagsen. Nagsen. Then further you mention Buddhist monk Nagsen. As such, Midandar asked many questions. Midandar asked many questions to Nagasen. Midandar asked many questions to Nagasen, and Nagasen gave satisfactory reply to each of the questions. Then further you mention, as such, Midandar accepted Buddhism. As such, Midandar accepted Buddhism. And also took a new name, Milind. Full stop. Then you mention after this, also took a new name, Milind. The historical conversation between Midandar and Nagasen, is mentioned in Milind Panno. The book's name written on the board, you can write Milind Panno. So, Milind Panno. Then further, after this, that Milind Panno, then you mention after this. So this is all about that, not after this is all about the Indo-Greeks. One more thing I needed to mention, that since they were outsiders, so these people, when they were coming from the other countries, so obviously their culture has some of the differences, that some of the new things, and these new things got introduced into India. So one such thing was the tradition of the gold coin, but other very important thing, for the very first time the curtains were introduced by the Indo-Greeks. So they are the one who brought the curtains. Then, so not brought down the curtains, but they brought the curtains. Then, so they brought the curtains to India. And initially when it comes to the history of the curtain, so history of the curtain, it was associated with the theaters, then theatrical traditions, dramas, and then in front, I hope that, I don't know, that since you guys, most of you are millennials, born after 1990s, so may be possible that you must not have seen any such kind of theater or drama, but I have seen. I'm not much older than you, I'm just 3-4 years older than you. So this I like to say. So, but I have seen these theaters, and in Delhi itself, that Kamani Auditorium and this KG Mag. There are so many theatrical presentations here, dramas are there. So I have seen so many theatrical performances. So where you must have noticed that there is a curtain, and then that after the before the performance is going to happen, so there is a curtain, and when the performance is going to start, so they remove the curtain. So this curtain tradition was there in the theater, and from theater only, from the Indo-Greek area only, that from theater only, it went inside the houses of the people, and now it has become a very important part of houses of the people, that without curtains down you cannot do many things in your houses then. So you know that. So it was a good introduction by the Indo-Greeks. So you write that, you can write it as a one such last information. Indo-Greeks introduced curtains in India. Indo-Greeks introduced curtains in India. Done? So this is about this particular Indo-Greeks. Now, let's move to the next one, Sakas. Sakas. So they started arriving by 90 BC. Now listen, Sakas arrived in many branches. It is not as such that they arrived in a single branch. They arrived in many branches and in the different parts of the country. So, but the one which we are going to read and one which we are going to talk about, it is the western branch of the Saka, which arrived in the present-day Gujarat area and then the adjoining area. So the one branch was in the north, one very important, that important branch was there in the north, and then most important was the western branch. Then, so western branch. Now in this western branch, when we talk about this in this western branch, so the Saka, the most important ruler of this western branch was the Rudra Daman. Rudra Daman was the most important ruler of this Sakas, of this branch of the Gujarat. And there are many such contributions of this person, or you can say that initiatives of this person, Rudra Daman. So when it comes to some of the initiatives of the Rudra Daman, so basically, what is that? Most of the information about him comes from this very important inscription, Junagadh inscription. Junagadh inscription. And what is unique about this inscription? So this is the first inscription in India written in pure Sanskrit. So written in chaste Sanskrit. Right? So it was the first inscription in India written in chaste Sanskrit. Then we need to see that what all things were written in this inscription, from where we get the important insight about the Rudra Daman's rule. So for example, that it has many parts, and first part let me mention. So he has mentioned something about a very famous lake of the Kathiawad area in Gujarat, Sudarshan Lake, which is there in the Kathiawad of Gujarat. So this Sudarshan Lake, and it is one of the lake which is kind of that longest surviving lake, you can say, that which is still there. So Sudarshan Lake, so this, he has provided information about this lake. What is this information? First, he is telling that who was the person responsible for creation of this lake. So in this, it has been mentioned in this Junagadh inscription that one of the governor of Chandragupta Maurya, governor of Chandragupta Maurya, whose name was Pushyagupta Maurya, Maurya, constructed this particular, he was the one who created, who was responsible for the creation of the Sudarshan Lake. This he has mentioned. Then after second part he mentions that he himself repaired this lake. Then, so this is one information which is mentioned. There is one more information which I'll tell you, but first you write Sakas. So many times Sakas are also referred as Scythians. You can also write this way, that Saka or Scythians. Scythians. Then, so please mention Sakas or Scythians started to arrive in India by 90 BC. By 90 BC. Full stop. They arrived in many branches. They arrived in many branches, but the most important was the western branch of Saka. But the most important was the western branch of Saka. Western branch of Shaka. Full stop. Then further you mention western branch of Saka. The most important ruler of this branch was Rudra Daman. Rudra Daman. Then Rudra Daman, after full stop you write, Rudra Daman is known for his Junagadh inscription. Rudra Daman is known for his Junagadh inscription. Which was the first inscription written in pure or chaste Sanskrit. Chaste Sanskrit. Full stop. So you write, after this you write, in this he mentions Sudarshan Lake of Kathiawad. Which was constructed by one of the Maurya governor or Chandragupta Maurya's governor, Pushyagupta Maurya. One of the Chandragupta Maurya's governor, Pushyagupta Maurya. Then further you mention Pushyagupta Maurya. He further mentions that he himself repaired the Sudarshan Lake. Sudarshan Lake. Then further you mention Sudarshan Lake. So before mentioning, I need to that before you write, I must mention it over here. So the another part of the Junagadh inscription, where Rudradaman has mentioned about his own victories. Then, so what he has mentioned, that Rudradaman has mentioned in this inscription, that he defeated Satavahan ruler, he defeated Satavahan ruler. So let me write this name first. It is a big name. So Vasisthi Putra Satkarni. Vasisthi Putra Satkarni. So in this he has mentioned that he defeated Satavahan ruler Vasisthi Putra Satkarni twice. Then twice. And every time he further mentions that every time, both the times when he defeated Vasisthi Putra Satkarni, he spared his life. Then, so he spared his life. Why so? Because there was a matrimonial alliance between the Sakas and Satavahan. So, to respect the matrimonial alliance, then, so every time he spared his life just to respect the matrimonial alliance between the two kingdoms. Please mention. In the next part of inscription, Rudradaman mentions that twice he defeated Satavahan ruler, Vasisthi Putra Satkarni. Vasisthi Putra Satkarni. Name is written on the board. You can see the spelling. Vasisthi Putra Satkarni. But every time he spared life of Satavahan ruler. Every time he spared life of Satavahan ruler to respect the matrimonial alliance, between two kingdoms. Matrimonial alliance between two kingdoms. Then, so this was the second dynasty that we mentioned. We don't need to do PhD in any of these dynasties. Now let's come to the third dynasty, and here also this is just to mention this was not a very long-lived dynasty. Even it did not control a very large area in India. So this dynasty, it came to picture somewhere by 25 AD. So 25 AD, now the date changes from BC to AD. So Parthians started arriving in India by 25 AD, and within 20 years they winded up their business from India. Then, so Parthians arrived by 25 AD. And what we need to mention over here, why we are mentioning the Parthians, because of one such important thing which happened at this point of time. Can you see that it is 25 AD? So this is also the time period which is synonymous with the time period of the Jesus Christ. Then it means that in Bethlehem, in Jerusalem, these all areas, that Jesus Christ is there, and he has started his own campaign of that religious preaching and everything. Then, so 25 AD, so they were the contemporaries of the Jesus Christ. Now, the most important ruler of these Parthians was the Gondophares in India, and during the tenure of the Gondophares, one Christian missionary saint came to India. Then, so one Christian missionary saint came to India. His name was Saint Thomas. Saint Thomas. Then many times it is called as the Saint Thom also. So Saint Thomas, he came to India. He was a Christian missionary. So he came to India from Israel to propagate Christianity. To propagate Christianity. So only for this purpose we do remember these Parthians. Otherwise, there is nothing to mention about them. So please you write, Parthians started arriving by 25 AD. Started arriving by 25 AD. Full stop. Then you mention the most important Parthian ruler in India, was Gondopharenus. Then further you mention, during his tenure, a Christian missionary Saint Thom or Saint Thomas, came to India from Israel to propagate Christianity. Then, so this is about the Parthians. Nothing else you need to know, but let me tell you a little bit about this Saint Thom. Not to write, but just to listen. So he died at a place called Mailapuram, and in South India itself. That Mailapuram, particularly I think that it is there in the Tamil Nadu. So Mailapuram he died, and after his death, that in the memory of this particular Saint Thomas, one church was created closer to their Puducherry. There is a place, name of this place is the Velankanni. So at this place Velankanni, the first church in India was created in the memory of this particular Saint Thomas, and it is named after this particular Saint Thomas. So it is one of the very important places as far as the Christians are concerned, that important church as far as the Christians are concerned. In fact, in India also it is one of the very popular church. So it is in the state of Tamil Nadu. Place is Velankanni, and Velankanni is closer to the Puducherry. Then, so if you happen to visit somewhere down the line in your kind of that whenever Puducherry, so you can visit this church. Beautiful church, and then location is also beautiful. And it is also the part of the many of the government's program related to the pilgrimage rejuvenation. So this church is also the part of the many of the government programs like Hridaya Prasad. So in these all programs, this church is the part of the pilgrimage rejuvenation. So now come to the next part after this, and the most important outsiders. These were the smaller ones, but now come to the most important one, and that is the Kushanas. So here we need to study them in little detail, not as compared to the previous ones. So the next one is the Kushanas. Now when it comes to Kushana, so they also did not arrive in a single branch, but in fact they also had two branches. So first of all, who were Kushanas? That I'll mention over here. So Kushanas were Central Asians. They were Central Asians, and their name of their tribe was Yuechi. So they belonged to Yuechi tribe of the Central Asia. This is the name of their tribe. So they belonged to Yuechi tribe of Central Asia. They arrived in two branches. Then, so two branches. The first branch arrived in 65 AD, and the second branch is in 78 AD. So first branch in 65 AD, second in 78 AD. The first was known as Kadafais branch, Kadafais, and second is the Kanishk branch. Kanishk branch. So these were the two branches. Now you start writing, then I'll explain that what was there in the Kadafais and then the Kanishk branch. So please mention Kushanas belong to UHE tribe of Central Asia. Belonged to UHE tribe of Central Asia. Okay, so Mailapuram is in Chennai. Okay, so I was knowing it that it is in Tamil Nadu, but not the exact location. So exact location, thank you for that. So Nayan, I have been to Chennai many times, but maybe I may not, I have not noticed. So Mailapur, so next time when I'll be going to Chennai, I go for the classes also. Chennai, Trivandrum, Cochin. Last year when pandemic was not there, I never felt like that I am kind of in a profession where I am teaching at one place. In fact, near about 1/3 of my time I do expend in the South India, particularly in Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Bangalore. So Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Bangalore. So these all places I do have huge number of my own students. So I have been to many of the places, but I didn't came across. Chalo, good that you told me this thing that Mailapuram is in Chennai. So I will next time, I must go to the Mailapuram. So now, so Central Asia, so Central Asians and they belong to this UHE tribe. Now, you're right. They arrived in two branches. They arrived in two branches. They arrived in two branches. That is Kadafais branch and Kanishk branch. You can also write in the brackets the year in which they came. So Kadafais branch in 65 AD and Kanishk branch in 78 AD. So further you write. Now I need to tell you a little bit more about this Kadafais branch. So listen that in this Kadafais branch there were two rulers. The initial ruler, his name was the Kujul Kadafais. Then Kujul Kadafais, and he was followed by another ruler, Vim Kadafais. Now, what is the speciality of the Kadafais branch? That when they came, so they also released coins then, and in these coins, in the coins of this Kadafais branch, it was very much clear that which particular religion they were following. So this Kadafais branch of the Kushanas, they released coins in India, and in these coins some unique information is there. So let's look at the coin of this Kadafais branch. So whenever we talk about the coins, then so coin has that, generally we say that heads and tails. Then so rather than saying head and tail, another term which is used in the numismatic, that is the obverse and the reverse side. Then so front and back is not used in the coin. You can't say that this is front, this is back. Whichever side you are choosing, so that is that if you are holding, so that is the obverse, and then if you kind of turn it, so that is the reverse. So the two sides of the coin, obverse and reverse. So let's see that what was created on the two sides. On one side of the coin, image of the Kadafais king is there, then and image of the Kadafais king is there. Moreover, on the second side of the coin, that is the reverse or obverse, it could be any. So this is the one where important information is there. So in this side, you will see that a freestanding person, that image of a freestanding person is there. Let me create it. So let me not experiment a lot. And this person is holding a trident. This person is holding a trident. Then, moreover, not only this person is holding a trident, but also at the same point of time that there is an animal over here, a humped animal. And you know what is this humped animal? So this humped animal looks like the bull. Then so looks like the bull. I'm not good right now at the art, but you can understand. So a freestanding personality is there who is holding a trident, and then there is an animal. That animal looks like the bull. But what about this person? So he seems like the god Shiva. So it is an indication that they were the devotees of the Shiva. So their coin itself indicates that they were the devotees of the Lord Shiva. So please write this name first. Kujul Kadafais was the initial ruler. Kujul Kadafais was the initial ruler, followed by Vim Kadafais. Followed by Vim Kadafais. Many of you must be thinking that do we need to remember these all names? So Kujul Kadafais was the first, Vim Kadafais was the second. See this is not the way to kind of read history whereby people emphasize on doing the rectification, or until and unless you kind of start remembering the things, you are kind of that revising it again and again, and then you're trying to do the ratification. Don't go by the same. That rote memorization is not required. What you do, you just read it just like a story, or you read it like just like a information. Don't pressurize your mind to remember these all information. Whenever in exam, if you have revised this 10-15 times, 10 times, suppose 10 times, so whenever the question comes in the paper, particularly in the prelims examination, in options it would be there, and it would automatically, your mind will click that these was the Kujul was the first ruler, Vim was the second ruler. This is how mind works. If you pressurize yourself to remember all the things by rote memorization, it is not possible, and that's not the best way to go about with the factual portions of this examination. So read it as that you are revising then, and revising with little bit of awareness, and don't force yourself then. So now Vim Kadafais followed by the Vim Kadafais. Then further you mention Kadafais rulers released their coins in India. Kadafais rulers released their coins in India. Then you write, on the obverse side of the coin, image of king was created. On the obverse side of the coin, image of the king was created, and on the reverse side, image of a freestanding person, holding a trident, image of a freestanding person holding a trident, along with a bull, was depicted. Full stop. Then further you mention, It indicates that Kushanas were devotee of Shiva. Kushanas were devotee of Shiva. Then, so this is about this Kadaphi's branch. Let's talk about the most important, that is the Kanishk branch. Listen, Kanishk branch came in 78 AD, and this 78 AD, what they did, that first, since they are coming from the Central Asia, so they arrived in the Kashmir part, and in Kashmir part, these northern branch of the Sakas were there. Then, so he defeated the northern branch of Saka in 78 AD to establish his rule in India. So after defeating this northern branch of the Saka in 78 AD, to mark his victory, to commemorate his victory, he started a new calendar or new era, which we call Sak era. So, which we call Sak era. So he started Sak era from this particular 78 AD. And I hope you must be aware that government of India, that the official calendar of the government of India follows the Sak era. Okay? So it is the government of India calendar also. And otherwise there are many other type of the calendars which are popular. For example, in India itself, when we talk about the Hinduism, so Hindus follow Vikram Samvat. Then what about the Muslims? So Muslims follow Hijri calendar, and overall we millennials, and then generally internationally, so Gregorian calendar is followed. The January, February, this is a Gregorian calendar. Then so Gregorian calendar is most accepted all over the world. Then in fact every country has to follow this. But apart from that, every country has their own calendar. For example, that Islamic countries, they do have the Hijri calendar, and in India Hindus follow Vikram Samvat. So here government of India follows Sakera. So please write, you can change paragraph and then you write Kanishk branch arrived Kanishk branch arrived in India by 78 AD. In India by 78 AD. Then further you mention he defeated northern branch of Sakas. He defeated northern branch of Saka, full stop. To commemorate his victory, commemorate, COMMEMORATE. To commemorate his victory, he started Sak era. He started Sak era from 78 AD. He started Sak era from 78 AD. Then, listen. So, Kanishk firmly established himself in this. I think that you have created the map which I created in the beginning of the class. So when you are looking at the map where the control of the Kanishk was there, so basically one is the Satvahan, who had huge control, that they were controlling a good amount of land, and another is the Kanishk. So Kanishk slowly established himself, and moreover there are many such things related to Kanishk, not Tanishk. So related to Kanishk that we need to talk about, but I'll tell you the one connection of the Tanishk with the Kanishk. Yes, there is a real connection of Kanishk with the Tanishk. So listen first. So Tanishk, again I'm saying the same thing. So forgive me for this such kind of word I'm repeating again and again. So now he came to power, and during his tenure, it is said that it was another wave of the urbanization in India. So it was another wave of urbanization in India, whereby he himself led foundation of many cities. Then, and two outstanding cities of this time were, one he created in Kashmir itself. The name of the city was the Kanishkpur. Then he is also the founder of the present day city which is there in the Pakistan. The original name of the city is the Purushpur, and nowadays it is known as the Peshawar. Then so Purushpur was the original city which was founded by the Kanishk, and nowadays it is known as the Peshawar. So what if our chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, he would have been over there in the Pakistan, so he would have renamed Peshawar as the Purushpur. Okay? Now he is hell-bent after the Hyderabad to make it Bhagyanagar. But historical evidence suggests that Peshawar was the Purushpur. So he must do this thing. He must persuade the Pakistan government to make it Purushpur. So these were the two cities. And then Mathura also developed a lot at the time of the Kanishk. Then, so Kanishk paid due emphasis to Mathura. Then this Kanishkpur which I am telling you, this is the area of the Jammu. Then Peshawar. Moreover, Kanishk period is also known for very heavy level of monetization. Then, so monetization, I hope you know. You all are aware. Earlier, people were not aware with the demonetization, but once you were kind of that faced the situation, so now you are aware. Even there are many terms which we are learning at this point of time. For example, that I only place where I saw the word quarantine and quarantine, that was I think that when the viruses were there in the laptops and then other places, then so now it became a common word. Then so let's come to this part. So he did that. He was known for the very large level of monetization, and in this monetization, what all kind of coins he released. So Kanishk released huge huge amount of the copper coins, but his reign is also known for a good chunk of the gold coins were also released. And moreover, not just the good chunk of the gold coins were released, but also the gold coins were purest of the pure quality. Then, so purest of the pure quality. This is what I was saying to you, that when it comes to India, that in India, when we go to buy gold, and when it comes to the trust in buying the gold, obviously, it is the name of the Tata, that Tata brand Tanishq. Then, so Tata brand Tanishq, and people generally prefer, if they want to buy that exactly 22 carat or exactly whatever amount of carat, so people generally go with the Tatas because there is a trust of the Tatas. And I'm not saying that others are kind of giving you fake, but this is what is the trust of the Tatas. Then, so Tata, when it was naming this brand, so they had this connection with the Kanishk. That Kanishk, the last part, they took the last part of the name of the brand, they took from the Kanishk because he was the ruler who released purest of the pure quality of gold. And first part of the name Tanishq, T they took from the Tatas. That's how it was named Tanishq. So he released large amount of gold coins. Moreover, and these coins were purest of the pure quality, he also used the services of the Silk Route. Then, and I hope you must be knowing at least this word Silk Route. Nowadays, this Silk Route has been renamed as the One Belt, One Road initiative. So this Silk Route was running from China till Rome. Then, so Venice. So it was running from China and Yunnan province of the China till Rome. So this Silk Route was one of the very busiest route at that point of time for trade and commerce, and Kanishk also used this route for trade and commerce. One more such very important thing which happened at the time of the Kanishk was he convened the fourth Buddhist council. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. So first you write few words about Kanishk. So you write, what is the last word you have written? Kanishk, have you written? So he defeated this Saka branch and started a new era. So then after you write, with the arrival of Kanishk, with the arrival of Kanishk, there was with the arrival of Kanishk, there was a new wave of urbanization in India. New wave of urbanization in India. Then you mention new wave of urbanization. Kanishk founded two new cities, that is Kanishkpur and Purushpur. That is Kanishkpur and Purushpur. He also further urbanized Mathura. Then you mention after full stop, his tenure is also known for very high level of monetization. His tenure is also known for very high level of monetization. He released large number of gold coins. Which were purest of the pure quality. Large number of gold coins which were purest of the pure quality. Then further you mention large number of coins which were the purest of the pure quality. Full stop. Further you mention he utilized silk route for establishing trade with China and Western world. Then now listen. So what I was saying, that at this point of time during the tenure of the Kanishk, so the fourth Buddhist council was convened in 78 AD itself, and this council was convened at a place called Kundal 1 in Kashmir. So Kundal 1 in Kashmir in 78 AD, and one of the major development of this council was the division of the Buddhism. So again, what I need to tell you, that the further elaboration of this division would be there in the Buddhism. Then so Buddhism was divided in this council, that is the one part. But other thing, after this council was over, Kanishk basically that he started to patronize that at this point of time. He was huge patronizer of the art and architecture. In fact, the sculptures were patronized by him, and the outstanding sculptures of that time were the Mathura and Gandhar, which had the patronization of the Kanishk, and it has relation with the Buddhism also, so that we will explore in the art and culture chapter. Moreover, Kanishk also under the leadership of the Ashwaghosh, he accepted Mahayana Buddhism. So please write few words. In 78 AD, in 78 AD, Kanishk convened Fourth Buddhist Council. Kanishk convened Fourth Buddhist Council at Kundalwan in Kashmir. At Kundalwan in Kashmir. Then after you mention at Kundalwan in Kashmir, under the influence of Ashwaghosh, he accepted Mahayana Buddhism. He accepted Mahayana Buddhism. He accepted Mahayana Buddhism. Then you mention he also patronized Gandhar and Mathura style of sculpture. Gandhar and Mathura style of sculpture. Gandhar and Mathura style of sculpture. So now one last thing about the Kanishk reign I need to mention. He was the only important ruler of this branch. And one last thing about the overall about this Kushanas. Just the way we mentioned that Indo-Greeks introduced curtains in India, there is some kind of outfit introduction by the Kushanas also. So what is this favorite, that important outfit that they introduced in India? So they introduced that this Kushanas introduced long overcoats, then they introduced boots, and they also introduced the very, what I can say, that very popular Indian ethnic wear, which is the part of the many marriages and even any such ritual which is happening in the Indian families. So this is part and parcel. That was the kurta pajama. Then so this kurta and pajama, this is the pajamas. They are the one which were introduced by the Kushanas. So you write that Kushanas introduced long overcoat. Kushanas introduced long overcoat, boots, and kurta pajama outfit in India. Kurta pajama outfit in Indian subcontinent, you say. Kurta pajama outfit in Indian subcontinent. So every outfit has its own story. So whenever you go to any other country, if you come across a different kind of outfit, so that try to understand with the local people that how this outfit came to picture. So this is about the Kushanas that we needed to mention. One more part of the Kushana which is remaining, that is their contribution to the sculpture. So again I'm saying that part will be covering in art and culture, sculpture part, and also the stupa development during their time, that also I will cover in the culture part. So this is all about all the outsider dynasties which were there at this point of time. Let's move to the dynasties which were indigenous origin, and the one which replaced Mauryas from the power, and that was the Sunga dynasty. After the Sunga, we'll be mentioning the Kanva, and after the Kanva, we'll be mentioning the Satvahan. So let's begin with the indigenous dynasties. So meanwhile, I'm giving you a minute. If you guys want to ask any important query, so please ask. And give me just a minute. It's not a break. So give me a minute, just a minute. So meanwhile, you can send your query. So let's begin with the indigenous dynasties, and the very first one would be the Sunga. So indigenous rulers or dynasties basically. So the very first one is the Sunga dynasty. And this is where we ended Mauryas, that the one of the minister of the Mauryas, Pushyamitra Sunga, he killed the last Maurya ruler Brihadrath to come to the power in 185 BC. But by this time already the Magad, that Maurya empire, or you can say that Magad has shrinked to a smaller place as compared to what it was at the time of the Ashoka. So Sungas came to power by 185 BC. So please mention few words about him, that this dynasty. So Sunga dynasty was founded by a Brahmin, Pushyamitra Sunga. A Brahmin, Pushyamitra Sunga. So already we have written he killed Brihadrath, so there would be no repetition. Now listen. When Pushyamitra Sunga came to power, and you have seen that Asoka's regime, it was all about the Buddhism, that he accepted Buddhism, and then also the followers were like that only. Means that most of them were following Buddhism. At this point of time, this Brahmin minister who was there, he was feeling that somewhere Hinduism is going down the line, and the way too much emphasis to the Buddhism is kind of eroding the old practices. So he was a Brahmin who believed in the old Vedic rituals, and after coming to power, he tried to revive these Vedic rituals. So he tried to revive these Vedic rituals. He performed one of the Vedic ritual which you have studied, Ashwamedha Yajna. So he performed one Ashwamedha Yajna, and the details of this Ashwamedha Yajna is mentioned in one inscription which is known as the Ayodhya inscription. So in Ayodhya inscription, the details of this Yajna, Ashwamedha Yajna, is mentioned. Moreover, Pushyamitra Sunga also destroyed many of the stupas. So just to discourage the Buddhist, he destroyed many of the stupas. Moreover, at his point of time, when he was the ruler, so the head priest of the Sunga kingdom was, you know that? So it was Patanjali. So the same Patanjali whom we talk about the yoga. So Patanjali was the head priest of that time. And this is the time, that Pushyamitra Sunga's time, that when Patanjali came up with his philosophy of yoga, and he wrote that book, Yoga Sutra. So please mention few words about Pushyamitra Sunga. So you write, Pushyamitra tried to revive Vedic rituals. Tried to revive Vedic rituals. Then further you mention, tried to revive Vedic rituals. Then further you write, he also performed an Ashwamedha Yajna. He also performed an Ashwamedha Yajna, which is mentioned in Ayodhya inscription. Which is mentioned in Ayodhya inscription. full stop, which is mentioned in Ayodhya inscription, full stop. Then you write, he also destroyed many Buddhist stupas. He also destroyed many Buddhist stupas. Many Buddhist stupas. Then you write, after full stop, Patanjali was the contemporary of Pushyamitra Sunga. Patanjali was the contemporary of Pushyamitra Sunga, who propounded the philosophy of yoga, and wrote Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra. So now listen, that after this Patanjali episode, so the next ruler who came to power was the son of the Pushyamitra Sunga. His name was the Agnimitra Sunga. Then there was a question in 2016 associated with the Agnimitra Sunga. So basically what is this? So Agnimitra Sunga, when he came to power, so basically what was the question that I'll tell you? Kalidas wrote one book. Name of this book was the Malvikagni Mitra. So Malvikagni Mitra is that what they asked in the paper, that what is the theme or with which ruling dynasty of India, ancient India, this particular plot of the Malvikagni Mitra is associated with. So this was associated with the Sunga dynasty. That was the question, that it was associated with the Sunga dynasty. In the paper they did not ask that who is the writer of the Malvikagni Mitra. So this Malvikagni Mitra is the story of the Agnimitra Sunga, and there was this lady, her name was the Malvika. Then, so the love story of the Malvika and Agnimitra Sunga is mentioned in the historical book of the Kalidas, that is Malvikagni Mitra. Then after this particular person, Agnimitra Sunga, next ruler was the Vasumitra Sunga. And what is popular about Vasumitra Sunga, that popular about the Vasumitra Sunga is that during his tenure, those stupas which were destroyed by Pushyamitra Sunga, he reconstructed those stupas. Then, so he reconstructed those stupas. So this is about the Vasumitra Sunga. Then there was one more ruler, Bhagabhadra. Okay? So Bhagabhadra, that during the rule of the Bhagabhadra, there was one Greek ambassador who came to India at this point of time. So Bhagabhadra, I am not able to pronounce his name very correctly. I'll be writing it all on the board also. So during his tenure, a very famous Greek ambassador came to India. His name was Heliodorus. Heliodorus accepted Hinduism, and moreover, at this point of time, this Heliodorus, he not only accepted Hinduism, he also erected a pillar, and this pillar was the first archaeological evidence of the worship of Vishnu, and this pillar was known as Garuda Dhwaj, which was erected at a place called Vidisha or Bhilsa in Madhya Pradesh. Then, so Vidisha or Bhilsa in Madhya Pradesh. Vidisha is the present day name and Bhilsa was the old name. So you write, you haven't written about the Agnimitra Sunga, so you write, next ruler was Agnimitra Sunga. Next ruler was Agnimitra Sunga, whose love affair with Malvika is mentioned in historical work of Kalidas, Historical work of Kalidas, Malvikagni Mitra. Historical work of Malvikagni Mitra. Malvikagni Mitra. Then further you mention historical work of Kalidas, Malvikagni Mitra. He was followed by Vasumitra Sunga. He was followed by Vasumitra Sunga. He was followed by Vasumitra Sunga. During his tenure, the stupas which were destroyed by Pushyamitra Sunga, were restored. The stupas which were destroyed by Pushyamitra Sunga were restored. Then were restored. Then further you mention during the tenure of Sunga ruler Bhag Bhadra. Bhagabhadra, a Greek ambassador, Heliodorus, not only accepted Hinduism, a Greek ambassador, Heliodorus, not only accepted Hinduism, but also erected a pillar at Bhilsa, or in brackets you can write Vidisha, Madhya Pradesh, to mark the worship of Lord Vishnu. Then to mark the worship of Lord Vishnu. He also erected a pillar at Bhilsa or Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh to mark the worship of Lord Vishnu. The pillar was popularly known as Garud Dhwaj. The pillar was popularly known as Garud Dhwaj. Then further you mention it is considered as first archaeological evidence. Archaeological evidence, I'm not talking about the literary. Then so archaeological evidence of Vishnu worship. So this is all about the Sunga dynasty. What all important things happened at this point of time. Now we need to talk about this Kanava, just like the way we mentioned Parthians in 1 or 2 lines. So here also, just to complete the chronology, Kanvas we need to mention. So Kandva dynasty, it came to power in 75 BC. Then it came to power in 75 BC, and the person who founded this was the Vasudev Kandva. So Vasudev Kandva, So he was the one of the minister of the Sungas, and then he came to power in 75 BC, and he was the only important ruler. He was also the follower of the Vedic Hinduism. He tried to popularize the Vedic Hinduism. Then only this much you need to write. So you write Sunga dynasty was replaced by Kandavas. Sunga dynasty was replaced by Kandava in 75 75 BC. In 75 BC. Then you write this dynasty was founded by Vasudev Kanva. This dynasty was founded by Vasudev Kanva. Vasudev Kanva, who also promoted Vedic Hinduism. Who also promoted Vedic Hinduism. Then, now listen. In the 1st century AD, this Kanva dynasty was defeated, and then the area of the Magad was annexed by the Satavahan. Then, so you write in 1st century AD, in 1st century AD, Kandavas were replaced by, or Kandavas were defeated by, you can write, Kandavas were defeated by Satvahan. Kandavas were defeated by Satvahan, who were the rulers of Deccan. Who were the rulers of Deccan. Who were the rulers of Deccan. And annexed Magad into their Deccan kingdom. Annexed Magad into their Deccan kingdom. So this is about this particular Kandava and Sunga. So it means that what I mentioned, that Satvahans were already existing, because they were the one who defeated this Kandavas, and then they annexed this area. So Satvahan, in fact, that it's in the post-Maurya period, a very large tract of the land is controlled by the Satvahan, and the ruler who annexed this area of the Magad, so the name of the ruler was the Semuk, and who is also considered as the formal founder. There were many other people related to Satvahan, but he is considered as the formal founder of the Satvahan in the 1st century AD. So let's begin with the last topic, that is not last topic of the today, but last in the post-Maurya period, that is the Satvahan. So please mention Satvahan dynasty. Satvahanas were also known as Andhra. They were also known as Andhra or Andhra Bhritya. Andhra Bhritya. So Satvahans were also known as Andhra or Andhra Bhritya. Moreover, the very important source of their history is the Hindu text Puranas. So Puranas, in fact, it is the only important source of information about the Satvahans. So Puranas are the most important source of information about them. Then who was the initial ruler who defeated Kanvas or replaced Kanva? So Simuk was the initial ruler. Then we'll talk about the other people who were there in the Satvahan kingdom and important rulers. So first you write these many words. So you write that Satvahans were also known as Andhras or Andhra Bhritya. Satvahans were also known as Andhras or Andhra Bhritya. Andhra Bhritya. The most important source of their history is Hindu religious text Purana. Hindu religious text Purana. Hindu religious text Purana. Then after, in the first century AD, in the first century AD, in the first century AD, Satvahan kingdom was firmly established. Satvahan kingdom was firmly established by Simukh. By Simukh. By Simukh. Now listen. So when we talk about the Satvahan rulers, so obviously we'll be talking about the most important ruler, and in this case that most important ruler would be the Gautami Putra Satkarni. But before Gautami Putra Satkarni, I'll mention one more ruler who is known for his contribution towards the art and literature. So there was one Satvahan ruler before Gautami Putra Satkarni. His name was Hala. So Hala was one important ruler, not the most important, but one important ruler of the Satvahan who patronized literature, who patronized art and literature. He himself was a good poet, and then he wrote a very famous poetry of that time known as the Gatha Sapta Sati in Prakrit language. So Gatha Sapta Sati in Prakrit language, and this Gatha Saptasati was an erotic love poetry. So you write, one of the important ruler of Satvahan was Hala. Who patronized art and literature. Who patronized art and literature. Then you write, he wrote a famous erotic love poetry, Gatha Sapta Sati. Erotic love poetry, Gatha Sapta Sati. Erotic love poetry, Gatha Saptasati. Then further you mention. So erotic love poetry, Gatha Saptasati. Now listen. The most important ruler of this particular Satvahan dynasty was the Gautami Putra Satkarni. And as you can see in the name, that Gautami Putra means that they have the mother's name in the beginning. Then that Gautami means that name of the mother is the Gautami. So it seems like that they are matrilineal dynasty. Then I explained these terms in the beginning itself, that maybe some places I'll be using patriarchal, matriarchal, patrilineal. So I'll not be explaining it again. And I hope that you must have paid due emphasis at that time when I was explaining matrilineal. So they are taking the names of the mother. That's the matrilineal. Then so Gautami Putra Satkarni, which indicates that it was a matrilineal dynasty. Moreover, that they became not a matrilineal, but they became the matrilineal dynasty. Now, so Gautami Putra Satkarni, that some of the details about the Gautami Putra Satkarni are mentioned by his mother only. The name of the mother was Gautami Balashri, and Gautami Balashri, she wrote a very famous inscription. Name of this inscription is the Nasik inscription. And in this Nasik inscription, this lady mentioned that Satkarni is the only protector of the Brahmins. So Satkarni is the only protector of the Brahmins and the religion of and he is the promoter of the religion of the Hinduism. So Hinduism. Then few other things that we need to talk about, that not just the Gautami Putra Satkarni, but overall, that what were some unique initiatives of the Satvahan rulers. Listen this. So when it comes to some of the initiatives of the Satvahan ruler, so Satvahan rulers, they were first in India who started releasing lead coins. Then so lead coins, for the very first time lead was used for making the coins, and it does not mean that they were not using other type of the coin. They were using silver, they were using copper, but they also started using lead coins. So for the first time, for the commercial transaction, lead coins were circulated. And another very important initiative of the Satavahan, that they were the first ruler in India who started the practice of granting land to the Brahmins and the monks in lieu of their service. Then, so to the Brahmins and monks in lieu of their service. So please write, Gautami Putra Satkarni, Gautami Putra Satkarni, Satkarni was the most important ruler. Gautami Putra Satkarni was the most important ruler of Satvahan. Most important ruler of Satvahan. His mother proclaimed in his mother Gautami Balashri, his mother Gautami Balashri proclaimed in Nasik inscription, proclaimed in Nasik inscription, proclaimed in Nasik inscription that Satkarni is the only protector of the Brahmins. Satkarni is the only protector of the Brahmins. Brahmins. Then you write as you can mention as an initiative, as a subheading initiative. So in initiative, very first one you write, Satvahans were the first ruler in India. Satvahans were the first ruler in India who started to release lead coins for commercial transaction. For commercial transaction. Then further mention, second, they were also the first rulers who started, they were also the first rulers who started the practice of, granting land, practice of granting land to Brahmins and monks, in lieu of their service. 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 So this is about the Satvahans. So this is all about the Satvahans. We'll go on break and then after we'll start with the Guptas. Then so Gupta period I will start after the break. So listen to the two questions. Soumya has asked this question. Wakatak dynasty C has asked. Wakatak were the contemporary of the Guptas and we are not going to read it in the classes. Then, so according to me, I will not be teaching it and according to me, it is not important. But the references would be there about the Wakatak. Then Satvahans were the Buddhist. This is a redundant question. Second part, when you are writing something in the notes itself, what I mentioned, that you were writing that Satvahans were the first people who started granting land to the Brahmins and monks, to the priest and monks. What is monk over here? That is the Buddhist only. So it is implicit over here. So maybe you must have missed that incorporates what is your question. So let's come to the next part. There are few things that I expect you guys to understand when I'm dictating this part or when I'm saying something. So this word itself is the answer. So rather than first asking question, you can just focus on what has been written or what has been explained, to whom we are referring as a monk. Then, so that is the Buddhist monk. So now let's come back to the part. So Gupta dynasty. Gupta dynasty, though will not be kind of that this part is a bigger part. So let's see that 3-4 rulers that I'll be mentioning today, and rest of the Gupta part like their polity, society, these all kind of things we'll be mentioning in the next class. So when it comes to the Gupta dynasty, so you know that in North India particularly, that after the Kanishk rule, Kanishk and Kushanas, when they started to disappear, so and other dynasties in the north, they kind of that they started to disappear. So by 200 AD, a vacuum started to get created in the North India. Guptas emerged somewhere in 230 AD, but they were not very powerful in and around 230. They were the control that the initial Gupta ruler was the Sri Gupta, so who was somewhere around 230, but he was not a very powerful ruler. In fact, that he was a kind of, you can say that, local lord or local warrior chief. The most important landmark event from the Gupta's initial perspective happened in 319 AD. And by the time of 319 AD, this person, Chandragupta I, listen this carefully, Chandragupta I, what he did that, he made so many arrangements, and again, with his efforts, he brought North India under one central authority. So North India under one central authority, and then he formally founded Gupta dynasty in the North India. So Chandragupta is the first Gupta ruler that I'll be mentioning in today's class. And then after Chandragupta I, I'll be talking about the Samudragupta, then Chandragupta II, and then Kumaragupta, and then Skandagupta. So these 5 rulers, their political, that what all initiatives were there at their time, that we'll be reading, and then after I'll be entering into the different aspects like the economy, society, religious aspect of the Gupta period. And it is one of the favorite topic of the Guptas. So one of the favorite Gupta is one of the favorite topic of the UPSC. Very often they do ask question not only in the prelims examination but also in the mains examination. So let's begin with the that part which I mentioned right now. So you write few words about the Guptas. So Gupta dynasty emerged around 230 AD. Emerged around 230 AD. Its initial ruler was Sri Gupta. Its initial ruler was Sri Gupta. Sri Gupta. Then you write, but they were not very powerful in the 3rd century AD. They were not very powerful in the 3rd century AD. Then you write, in the second decade in the second decade of 4th century, in the second decade of 4th century, Chandragupta first, Chandragupta first filled the void, filled the void created, created, filled the void created due to, filled the void created due to demise of the Kushanas, demise of Kushanas in North India, in North India. Then you write, with his efforts, Chandragupta, Chandragupta brought north, east and central India. Chandragupta brought north, east and central India under one central authority. Under one central authority. Under one central authority. Then further you mention under one central authority. Then we will move into the tenure of the Chandragupta first, which was 319 to 335 AD. So now listen that you can mention Chandragupta first as a heading, and then I will mention few of the things. So initial consolidation was militarily, but he also followed, Chandragupta also followed the policy of the matrimonial alliance. Then, so he also followed the policy of the matrimonial alliance, and going by this policy of the matrimonial alliance, Chandragupta first married one lady from the very strong area of this time, that was the Lichavi. Again Lichavi. Lichavi you have studied at the time of the Bimbisar, here also. So he married the princess of Lichavi, Kumar Devi. So he married this princess of Lichavi, Kumar Devi, and he further strengthened his position in India, particularly in north and eastern India. So he married Kumar Devi of Lichavi. Moreover, to celebrate this marriage for the very first time, a new type of the coin was released, and this coin was often called as the Kumar Devi type of coins. So what was there in this coin? On the obverse side of the coin, the image of the king and queen was there, and on the reverse side of the coin, so on the obverse side, king and queen, and on the reverse side of the coin, either of these three goddesses, so Lakshmi, Saraswati or Parvati. So any of these three goddesses, that in different coins, some coin Lakshmi, some coin Saraswati, some coin Parvati, so their images were created. This is happening for the first time. For the first time, queen's image on the coin, and for the first time, the goddess image on the coin. So you write, Chandragupta followed the policy of matrimonial alliance also. Chandragupta followed the policy of matrimonial alliance also, whereby he married Kumar Devi of Lichavi. Whereby he married Kumar Devi of Lichavi. Then further you mention, to celebrate this marriage, special type of Kumar Devi coins were released. special type of Kumar Devi coins were released? Special type of Kumar Devi coins were released. Then further you mention, on the obverse side of the coin, on the obverse side of the coin, image of king and queen was created. On the obverse side of the coin, image of king and queen was created. And on the reverse side of the coin, either of the three goddess, Lakshmi, Parvati, Saraswati were created. Lakshmi, Parvati, Saraswati were created. Lakshmi, Parvati, Saraswati was created. Now listen. So after this particular Chandragupta first period, so Chandragupta first period, that 319 to 335 AD, when he died, so his son Samudragupta became the next ruler, and Samudragupta tenure was 335 to 375. When it comes to Samudragupta's tenure, he was the most powerful Gupta ruler. Then, so he was the most powerful Gupta ruler, and after Asoka, he is mentioned as the second Chakravarti Samrat of India. I explained that yesterday also, that what is the meaning of the Chakravarti. So he was the second Chakravarti Samrat of India, and not only second Chakravarti Samrat of India, but there were few things which were written about him. There is one inscription which is popularly known as Prayag Prasasti. And this Prayag Prasasti was inscribed by the court poet of the Samudragupta. His name was Harisen. So Harisen wrote this Prayag Prasasti, which is a eulogization about the Samudragupta. What is eulogization? That praise. Then so he praised Samudragupta in this particular Prayag Prasasti. So what Harisen has written in this Prayag Prasasti, that he has written that Samudragupta, during that he kind of won more than 100 battles, and he further says that he never lost a battle. Then so he never lost a single battle and won more than 100 battles. Then so won more than 100 battles. So this is what is mentioned in the Prayag Prasasti. Then when it comes to other things associated with the Samudragupta, so Samudragupta was a ardent follower of the Hinduism. He also performed Ashwamedha Yajna. Then, so he was an ardent follower of the Hinduism, performed Ashwamedha Yajna. At the same point of time, he was also tolerant towards the other religion. Then, so many times it happens that if somebody is following one religion very deeply, so he is not accommodated towards the other religions. But that was not the case with the Samudragupta. Samudragupta was tolerant, accommodated towards the other religion. There is one example that I need to cite over here, and that example, that once during the tenure of the Samudragupta itself, there was this ruler of Sri Lanka. His name was Meghavarman. Meghavarman requested Samudragupta that he need his permission to create a Buddhist monastery at Bodh Gaya, and as such he requested, so Samudragupta not only gave him permission but also funded him to create this Buddhist monastery at Bodh Gaya. This is one part. Then Samudragupta was also, himself was a great musician, and he was a poet also. So he himself was a poet and musician, and in one of his coins he has been depicted with playing veena. Then so he has been depicted playing the musical instrument veena. So please write his name and the things which I mentioned. So you write Samudragupta. (335 AD to 375 AD). So please mention. He was the most powerful Gupta ruler. He was the most powerful Gupta ruler. He was the most powerful Gupta ruler, full stop. Then further you mention, he is also known as second Chakravarti Samrat of India. Second Chakravartin Samrat of India. Second Chakravartin Samrat of India. Then you mention his court poet Hari Sen. His court poet Hari Sen wrote Prayag Prasasti. Let me write here. Wrote Prayag Prasasti. Wrote Prayag Prasasti, which was eulogization of Samudragupta. Eulogization of Samudragupta means that बढ़ा चढ़ा के बताना, ठीक है, और excessively praising somebody. This is the meaning of the eulogization. So excessively praising somebody. Then you write that in this Hari Sen has mentioned that Samudragupta won more than 100 battles. Samudragupta won more than 100 battles. And never faced a single defeat. Then after you change paragraph and then you write Samudragupta was an ardent believer of Hinduism. Then further you mention he performed Ashwamedh Yajana also. Then he also gave permission to the Sri Lankan ruler Meghvarman to create a Buddhist monastery at Bodh Gaya. Full stop. Then after this you write Samudragupta was also an accomplished poet. And musician. accomplished poet and musician. Then for the right, accomplished poet and musician. In one of his coins, in one of his coins, he has been depicted, in one of his coins, he has been depicted musical instrument, playing musical instrument veena, playing musical instrument veena. Musical instrument veena. So this is about the Samudragupta. Now after the Samudragupta, this is the last ruler which I'll be mentioning today. I'll not move beyond Chandragupta II. So that's the last topic that I'm taking up today. So Chandragupta II. Chandragupta II and his tenure in 385 to 415. So 385 to 415. You must be thinking that what about the in between 10 years? Let me tell you one small story here. And see that if I would have been quite well today, so I would have been telling you stories with much enthusiasm, but still that yesterday also I cancelled a class in the evening. I was not feeling well, and same is there today also. But it's not like that I cannot continue with the class. Regularly we cannot cancel the classes. I am continuing with the class. So just listen to the story which is here at this point of time, that Chandragupta II came at the time of the 385. There is a small story here. Small story that after the Samudragupta, it was not the Chandragupta II who became the ruler, but in fact there was the Chandragupta II is the son of the Samudragupta, but there was elder son of the Samudragupta. His name was Ramagupta. Ramagupta became the ruler in 375, and what happened? So just listen to few incidents which happened at this point of time. Ramagupta was married to a very beautiful lady. The name of the lady was the Dhruva Swamini, and Dhruva Swamini was considered as the divine beauty of that time. She was the divine beauty of that time, and moreover, the Sakas, then Sakas who are there from the long time. So these Sakas, they fought one battle with the Chandragupta, Gupta ruler Ramagupta. So they fought with Ramagupta, and they took him as a prisoner. So they took him as a prisoner, and as a price of release, they said to him that you will be released if you submit your wife to us, Dhruva Swamini to us. Then if you give your wife to us, then we will release you, we will restore that whatever we have captured. So Ramagupta was such a coward person that he accepted this proposal that if they will release him, so he will give his wife Dhruva to the Sakas. Now this was an insult to the Guptas, and not only insult, but it was the harm to the dignity of the women. And moreover, the Guptas, who as compared to many ancient rulers, they were not very, they were not brutal. Then they were the most accommodative rulers, and moreover, you will not come across instances where the son is killing the father or relative is killing the other. That didn't happen in the Gupta period. So in fact that it was a period of development of everybody, and in this period if the dignity of women is put at stake, so that was a that would be a long time blot on the Gupta history. So in this situation, the younger brother Chandragupta II, he decided that whatever he has committed, that will not come to picture, and moreover he will fight the battle. So he prepared his army from his capital, and then he attacked on the Sakas, defeated them. Then he easily defeated them, and then not only defeated them, and then after what he did, so after defeating them, killing them, he also killed his brother. He also killed his brother Ramagupta, and deservedly so. Why so? This kind of person who is a blot on the Gupta history, he must not be there. So he killed his brother, this particular Ramagupta, and then what he did, he married Dhruva Swamini. Then so he did the right thing. So it seems like a love triangle, but maybe that even if it was a love triangle, but this lady Dhruva Swamini, she didn't deserve a coward like Ramagupta. And how come you can put your wife at a stake in a war. This has happened at earlier times also, where Dharmaraj Yudhishthir has done. I don't know for what purpose he is called as the Dharmaraj. Then, so the most adharma kam he has done, that putting Draupadi on stake. Then, so Draupadi on stake. So, to me, he is not a celebrated person. Then, over here also, Ramagupta also did the same thing. And then Chandragupta rescued Dhruvaswamini and also married her. So this is how Chandragupta came to picture. So we don't need to write this story. This is just, I tried to tell you to make the connection in this with the history. So now listen to the Chandragupta second. He came to power, and after coming to power, he took the title of the Vikramaditya. Then, so he took the title of the Vikramaditya, and he is said as the most enlightened rulers of the Guptas. I'm not saying powerful. Powerful was his father, Samudragupta, but Chandragupta II is considered as the most enlightened ruler of the Gupta history. Now, why he said so? Because he was not more focused on the military campaigns, but Chandragupta II was focused on the holistic development in the Gupta territory. So holistic development in the Gupta territory, whereby he maintained many luminaries in his court. Then I'll be telling some of the names that which all luminaries were there in his court. But apart from that, that during his tenure, there was huge development in many sections then, or in many such sections of the society. For example, that there was good development in the temple architecture, Sanskrit literature, architecture, astronomy, astrology, mathematics, metallurgy. So these all spheres, in these all spheres, there was a development. Then, so there was good development, and in fact, this is the period which is called as the golden age of the art and architecture. So it's Chandragupta's second period, which is often termed as the golden age of the art and architecture. And as I said to you that he maintained several luminaries in his court. So one of the very famous luminary in his court was the Kalidas himself. Then, so Kalidas, who was the one of the greatest dramatist or novelist of the India. Then another important person in his court was the Amar Simha. Then there was Varah Meher, there was Dhanvantari, then there was Vararuchi. So these were the luminaries who were the part of the Chandragupta II's court. Please write few words, and then I'll tell you something else also related to Chandragupta II. So you write, Chandragupta II, after coming to power, Chandragupta II, after coming to power, took the title of Vikramaditya. Took the title of Vikramaditya. And he also created one more capital of the Guptas. Let me ask this question. So the second capital of the Guptas that he created was the Ujjain. Now my question to you guys is that what was the first capital of the Guptas? So please send your replies. Meanwhile, I am telling you these all things. Then, so you are going to send the first capital of the Guptas. But here you write, he created Ujjain as the second capital of the Guptas. Second capital of the Guptas. Ujjain as the second capital of the Guptas. Then further you write after full stop, he is considered as the most enlightened ruler He is considered as the most enlightened ruler of the Guptas. He is considered as the most enlightened ruler of the Guptas. Full stop. Then there was holistic development. During his tenure, in the fields of so one by one you write these all fields: temple architecture, Sanskrit literature, Hindu religious literature, mathematics, astrology, astronomy, metallurgy, medicine, surgery, etc. So two answers have come. I'm reading it, I'll tell you. So let other answers also come to the board, and then let me complete the dictation. I'm reading your answers, all of yours, all of the answers. So please write further what you have mentioned. He maintained several luminaries in his court. He maintained several luminaries in his court. So he maintained several luminaries in his court, which includes, so I'm writing these all names on the board, you can write. So till this point of time, 4 answers have come. So you write Kalidas, Amar Simha, Varah Mehir, Dhanvantari, and Vara Ruchi. So 4 answers have come. All of them have said the same thing. So Subham, Aman, Soumya and Tanya. So all of them have sent the answer Patliputra. Okay? So I'm not commenting, but I will wait for few more answers so that I can tell you that. So these were some of the famous luminaries in his court. Then what else I need to mention? So I think that Soumya, you asked this question of the Vakatak. Then, so Soumya, Vakataks were the contemporaries of the Guptas, and you can also say that some point of time they were contemporary of the Satvahans also. Basically, Vakataks were the rulers who were there in the Maharashtra, particularly in the area of the Aurangabad, Ahmednagar, these all area, Jalgaon. So they were the rulers of this area. Moreover, at this point of time, this person, Chandragupta II, he married his daughter Prabhavati to the Vakatak ruler Rudra Sen. Then, so he married his daughter Prabhavati to the Vakatak ruler Rudra Sen, and when Rudra Sen died, so he became kind of de facto ruler of the Vakatak area also through his daughter Prabhavati, because Prabhavati was the one who was ruling the Vakatak area. So in fact that Gupta and Vakatak were relatives. So you write, so what all things you have written this much, and then you write, so he married his daughter Prabhavati to the Vakatak ruler Rudra Sen. Full stop. Then further you mention, after the death of Rudra Sen, Prabhavati administered Vakatak area. Prabhavati administered the Vakatak area under the guidance of Chandragupta II. Then, so now I'll be telling you the answer. So all of you have sent Patliputra. This question I do ask deliberately at this place because now the Patliputra is no more. See that when, so Aman, Simranjeet, Aman and Raj also have said the same answer, Patliputra. Now listen, when Satvahans, listen to me, when Satvahans annexed the Magad area, so with them only the end of Patliputra as a capital happened. And even the Magad is also ending, Magad name is ending with the annexation of the Kanwas by Satvahans. Then, so, and Guptas, they didn't rose from the land of the Bihar, but they were basically the emergence of the emergence ground of the these Gupta rulers. So Anjali has sent this answer, Kannauj. No, Kannauj is not the answer. So the place which you are not mentioning and एक भी राइट आंसर नहीं आया तो उसके पहले ही कोई सही भेज दे उसके पहले मैं लिख दूं it was Prayag. Then so Prayag was their first capital and Guptas emerged in and around area of the Prayag. Then so Prayag was their first capital and second capital was Ujjain. Then so if you want to write at that place where you have mentioned Ujjain was the second capital, so you can also mention Prayag as the first capital. Then and Prayag, Allahabad, nowadays that in the Middle Ages and till the very recent time we called it Allahabad. Now it has become Prayag Raj. So I hope you understood this part. So last part about the Chandragupta II that I need to mention. During the tenure of the Chandragupta II, the Chinese Buddhist traveler came to India and this Chinese Buddhist traveler was the Fahian. Then so Fahian came to India at this point of time and Fahian wrote a book. Name of the book is the Fukuoki. So Fahian wrote this book Fukuoki, which gives an important, which is an important book about the details about the Gupta period, that what all kind of social system polity was existing at this point of time. So you write that during the tenure of the Chandragupta II, Chinese Buddhist traveler Fahian visited Gupta's court. Then further you mention, he wrote a famous book. He wrote a book, not famous, you write. He wrote a book, Fukuoki. The spelling is written on the board. So you can just see that Fukuoki. He wrote a book, Fukuoki, which is one of the important book which gives detail about socio-economic condition during the Guptas. Details about socio-economic political condition during the Guptas. Socio-economic political conditions during the Guptas. So there is one more part of the Fahian which I will be mentioning over there in the subsections and also when we'll be talking about the Kumar Gupta. So next class, that would be in the next week. So next class I'll be completing the Gupta part and then we'll be starting with the Sangam age. Then so Sangam age dynasties and then rest of the part of the ancient. Then so hopefully that what was the class number today, just let me see that it was the class number. So we are one class, okay, so it was class number 7. That's fine. So next class we will try to complete the ancient part and then after that we will start with the medieval history. So I'm winding up class here only. Thank you for today. Meet you next week.